video with Mr. Phillips, and today we'll be looking at controlling the heart rate from year 2 of A-level biology. You need to know that the heart is what we call myogenic, and this means that the cardiac muscle is able to initiate its own contractions without nervous stimulation. So this means that it will beat approximately 70 beats per minute, but obviously the nervous system can speed or slow this down. So one thing you need to be aware of in the background is the organisation of the nervous system. There is a central nervous system which is composed of the brain and the spinal cord and includes relay neurons, and then you have the peripheral nervous system, which is your cranial nerves, spinal nerves and peripheral nerves, so the nerves down your arms, etc. And that contains sensory neurons and motor neurons. So if you look at the nervous system, it is split into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Your peripheral nervous system then splits into motor and sensory neurons, and your motor neurons split into somatic nervous system, which controls your voluntary movements, and you'll study when you study muscles and skeletal muscles, and the autonomic nervous system, which contains your smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. These further then divide into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is what's responsible for your flight or fight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system allows you to rest or digest. So if we look at those, you need to understand the difference between the two. So the sympathetic nervous system is, as I said, responsible for your fight or fight response. So I like that the sympathetic nervous system allows you to be sympathetic to survival. It allows the fight or flight response. So what happens when you're in danger? Your pupils dilate. It inhibits salivary glands, so you don't produce any more saliva because you're not going to be digesting anything. Your heart rate is accelerated. Your bronchi are dilated, so that increases the amount of air that can get into your lungs, and glycogen gets converted into glucose. So basically, this stimulates your effectors to speed up activity, and it will help in stressful situations by heightening your awareness. The parasympathetic then is the opposite of that. It slows you down, your pupils get constricted, your salivary glands will produce more to help digestion, your heart rate slows down, your bronchi gets smaller, so there's less air gets in, and your stomach and intestines will work as normal. It therefore inhibits your effectors, slows down your activity, and conserves the body's energy. So your heart is controlled as well as being myogenic, but it's moderated and modified by the autonomic nervous system. So this is via something called the cardio-regulatory center in the brain, and this is found in the medulla oblongata of the brain, which is sort of here. And effectively, what this does is there are two centers: the acceleratory center, which will speed up the heart rate, and that sends messages via the sympathetic nervous system to the sinoatrial node, which you should know is the pacemaker of the heart, and it uses neuroadrenaline as the synapse neurotransmitter across the synapse. If you want to slow down the heart rate, the inhibitory center slows it down, sending messages via the parasympathetic nervous system to the sinoatrial node, which releases acetylcholine using cholinergic synapses. So you need to understand how does the heart actually contract. So you should be familiar with the idea of diastole and systole, and that the atria first contract and the ventricles contract after a period of rest. So effectively what happens is we have the pacemaker here, the sinoatrial node, okay, and it is a small patch of tissue that generates electrical activity. That electrical activity goes across the atrium and down in a wave of excitation, which causes the muscle to contract, and the atria, that is, to contract, which is systole. At the base of the atria, no more, this area here is non-conducting, so the electrical wave of activity can only travel via the middle, which is the atrial ventricular node, okay, and the atrial ventricular node then will send it further down the septum of the heart, but it does so after a brief break or a brief delay, and that allows the final blood to leave the atria and fill up the ventricle from atrial systole. The wave of excitation then travels down the Purkinje tissues in the septum of the heart till it gets to the base of the heart, and then it travels from the base of the heart, causing the heart muscles either side to contract, which pushes the blood upwards and out of the ventricles into the aorta or the pulmonary artery under high pressure. So how does the brain control it? So we said the cardioregulatory center is in the medulla oblongata, and depending on what is the need will depend on whether the cardioacceleratory center or the cardioinhibitory center sends messages via the parasympathetic nervous system if we're trying to slow it down, and the sympathetic nervous system if we're trying to speed up the heart rate. Again, the acceleratory center sends a message down the sympathetic nervous system if we want to speed up the heart rate, to speed up the amount of impulses from the sinoatrial node, and the parasympathetic nervous system from the inhibitory center if we want to slow down the heart rate. So what could trigger the cardioregulatory center? Well, there's two main things: carbon dioxide and blood pressure, which they are detected by changes in chemoreceptors and pressure receptors in the body. So if we look at high blood pressure first of all, or low blood pressure, this is detected by pressure receptors in the aorta, which is obviously the main artery, and the carotid artery, which is the main artery from your body into your head and into your brain. If high blood pressure is detected, it will transmit impulses to the medulla oblongata, and it will cause the inhibitory center to be activated, and that center will send impulses via the parasympathetic nervous system to the sinoatrial node to decrease the heart rate. If your blood pressure is low, though, you need to increase your heart rate, and therefore impulses will be sent to from the stretch receptors or the pressure receptors to the cardioacceleratory center, and that will send an impulse via the sympathetic nervous system to the sinoatrial node to increase the heart rate. Chemoreceptors are used to detect changes with carbon dioxide. So if you have low carbon dioxide, you're going to want to increase your heart rate. So again, the cardioacceleratory center needs to be activated. So if you do exercise, you have an increase in muscle activity, which obviously does more respiration. So you produce carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide lowers the pH of the blood because it dissolves in the liquid called carbonic acid. The chemical receptors in the carotid arteries therefore send more frequencies to the medulla oblongata, and in this case the acceleratory center in the brain will send a message via the sympathetic nervous system to the sinoatrial node to speed up the heart rate. The sinoatrial node then increases the heart rate, and you get increased blood flow, meaning the carbon dioxide is then removed faster. The carbon dioxide then returns back to normal, and as a result, the message will stop being sent to the cardioacceleratory center to slow the heart, and therefore the heart rate will slow down as opposed to speed up.